She was trimming a dead fern in the living room when I asked if she wanted to come with me. She looked at me, then back at the brittle leaves in her hand. I don't want to. No anger. No explanation. Just that. I stood there holding my jacket, one sleeve inside out, my keys jingling like coins in a dryer. The dog barked twice outside. Somewhere down the road, someone's goat was screaming again. That ridiculous, shrill noise that echoed up the hills every evening like clockwork. I used to laugh at it. Now it just felt like mockery. I'll be back late, I mumbled. Okay, she said, still snipping. I walked toward the door, swallowing that familiar lump in my throat, the one that had become my constant passenger. As I reached for the knob, Ren's voice startled me. Can I go with you? She was behind me in socks, hoodie sleeves covering her hands. Hair messy, a book tucked under her arm. I blinked. You sure? I've been hearing that goat scream for 6 nights straight. I need to get out before I turn into whatever it is. She didn't smile when she said it. That's how I knew she was serious. We didn't say much in the car. There was a fox lying dead on the side of the road, jaw open like it had died mid-snarl. Ren stared at it as we passed, then whispered, "Do you ever think some animals die angry?" I didn't answer. My hands were glued to the wheel like they were afraid I'd let go. We drove to the diner. Not because we were hungry, just because it was the only place in town open after 9 p.m., and it had those yellow booths that made everyone look like they were stuck in 1973. I ordered coffee. She got pie. I stared at the steam coming off my mug like it might tell me something useful about my life. That's when Ren slid something across the table. A photo. Not printed. Polaroid. Faded. Torn in the corner. A man standing next to Heather. Only it wasn't me. And he was wearing my sweatshirt. I stared at the photo for a solid 10 seconds before I said anything. The colors were warped with age, edges softened from fingerprints or moisture. The man in the picture had his back to the camera. Heather stood beside him, elbow hooked into his. Her face turned just enough for me to see the familiar slope of her smile. That smile used to belong to me. What is this? I asked. My voice was thinner than I expected. Not angry, just frayed. Ren sipped her root beer like this was an ordinary Tuesday night. She didn't answer right away. I found it in a book, she said finally. Between the pages of Cat's Cradle. It fell out when I opened it last night. That was Heather's book, right? Yeah, I said, still staring at the image. Back in college. I turned the photo over. There was something written on the back in faded blue ink. Pancake Day. Best one yet. Yellow heart. Pancake Day. She used to call Sundays that, back when I'd get up early and burn 3 batches before getting the 4th one right. It became a tradition. She'd sit on the counter with her legs swinging, singing off-key to whatever indie band she was obsessed with that week, while I slathered peanut butter and bananas between floppy, misshapen pancakes. But this wasn't our kitchen. This wasn't me. And that sweatshirt, mine, no question, was one I lost during a road trip 3 years ago. Heather swore it got left behind at a motel near Tahoe. I thought she threw this out. I whispered, fingers tightening around the photo. Why would he have it? Ren hesitated. Her pie was untouched. She pushed the plate away and leaned forward. You ever notice how she always does laundry when you're out of town? She said. Like, specifically on Sunday evenings? I figured that was her routine. She washes things you never wear, Ren continued, lowering her voice. Like that awful maroon sweater you hate. Or the striped socks you said itch your calves. I blinked, because I had seen those socks drying on the rack, and I had told her years ago to throw that sweater out. I thought maybe she just forgot. But now, I think she's been laundering someone else's clothes, Ren said, hiding them in plain sight. I felt something cold settle in my gut. My ears started ringing. The background diner noise, the forks clinking, the hum of the fluorescent lights, the shriek of the waitress's laugh 2 booths over. It all turned hollow. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Why tonight? Ren looked out the window like she couldn't say it directly to my face. Because when I said I wanted to come with you, she didn't care, she murmured. She didn't even ask where we were going. And if someone else was leaving with my husband, even if it was my sister, I'd at least ask why. She wasn't wrong. Heather didn't blink when I walked out. She didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't even pretend to wonder. Back at the house, the living room was dark. She'd turned in early. The dead fern still sat half-trimmed on the coffee table, one of the gardening scissors half-buried in its own leaves like a forgotten crime scene. Ren paused in the hallway. You gonna ask her? Not tonight. You gonna lie awake thinking about it? Obviously. She touched my arm. Just lightly. But I felt it like a fuse being lit. I'm not trying to break anything, she said. I'm just tired of watching you be erased. That stuck with me. Erased. Not hurt. Not betrayed. Just vanished. Quietly. Softly. Like I'd never been real in the first place. I didn't sleep. I laid there next to Heather, watching her scroll through her phone under the covers like she was reading state secrets. Her face was blank. Unbothered. The faint glow from her screen cast long shadows across the ceiling. At 1:13 a.m., she laughed. Not loudly. Just a little nose snort of amusement. I pretended to turn in my sleep, just enough to see her thumb hover over a message thread. I only caught 2 words on the screen before she tilted it away from me. Midnight pancakes. Then a winking emoji. That was it. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't just distant. She was elsewhere entirely. I didn't ask her anything the next morning. Not because I didn't want to. Because I wanted to so badly I was afraid I'd scream it across the eggs and toast. And once you start screaming, you lose. Heather doesn't respond to loud. She shrinks. Or worse, rolls her eyes. And I wasn't about to give her another reason to make me feel like a malfunctioning robot that just happened to pay the mortgage. She hummed while packing her lunch. Not a song. Not even a real tune. Just 3 disconnected notes on repeat. Like a dial-up modem trying to sing. She packed a banana, a boiled egg, one of those tiny yogurt cups that cost $5 for some reason. Then she paused, looked around, and muttered, "Where's my travel fork?" I didn't know she had a travel fork. She found it wedged in the dishwasher and smiled like it was a long-lost friend. I sat there chewing toast like it was gravel. Later that day, after she left for work, I stood in our bathroom holding 2 toothbrushes. One green, one orange. Mine was green. Hers was blue. Or it used to be. There was no blue toothbrush anymore. And the orange one had a tiny crack on the handle, like it had been jammed into something. The bristles were shorter, too, like someone with bigger teeth had been grinding the hell out of it. I opened the cabinet under the sink. Nothing unusual. Some expired cold medicine, half-used conditioner bottles, and a razor I don't remember buying. Then I noticed the travel bag. It was zipped, but not tightly. Heather never zips bags. She's more of a shove-it-and-go kind of person. I unzipped it slowly. Inside, a second phone charger, a folded receipt from a gas station 2 towns over, and a small amber glass bottle labeled cedarwood and vanilla beard oil. I don't have a beard. Neither does she. And I sure as hell have never smelled cedarwood or vanilla on her. I didn't confront her. Again. I know. I'm a coward. I'm the kind of guy people scream at in horror movies. Say something. Don't just stand there. But I've learned that in this kind of quiet war, silence is sharper than a knife. Instead, I texted Ren. Me, you busy? Ren, depends. Emotionally or logistically? Me, both. Ren, give me 10 minutes. We met at the laundromat near 4th Street. The one with the broken arcade machine and the world's most aggressive vending machine that once ate my dollar and the entire coin return tray. Ren was already sitting inside, legs crossed on top of a dryer, sipping something iced and possibly alcoholic through a coffee cup lid. I showed her the bottle of beard oil. She didn't even flinch. Just sniffed it. Definitely not yours, she said. No, I muttered. And not something she'd buy for herself. We sat in silence for a while, the dryers humming like jet engines around us. I kept looking at the floor like it might open up and swallow me whole. Then she asked the question. Nolan, what would you do if it was true? I didn't ask what she meant. We both knew. I wanted to say something strong. Something manly. Something like, I'd leave her. But instead I said, I don't think I know who I am without her. Ren didn't look disappointed. She just nodded. Slowly. Like she understood. Maybe too well. Then she reached into her tote bag and pulled out a paperback. Cat's Cradle. The same one from before. I didn't tell you everything, she said. She flipped through the pages, her fingers landing on a folded note. Old. Smudged ink. The paper was soft from being touched too many times. She handed it to me. Written in Heather's handwriting. Room 312. Tell them it's for the fieldwork retreat. Use your initials. Pancake, 7 p.m. I stared at it. No date. No name. Just those words. And a doodle of a tiny heart that looked like it had been redrawn 3 times. My initials are NS. Her sister's are WS. But someone else's were scribbled lightly in the top corner. MD. And I had no idea who that was. But I was going to find out. I didn't go home that night. I told Heather I had a late meeting with a vendor in the next city over. Something about replacing a furnace motor at the elementary school. She didn't even pretend to care. Just waved me off with a distracted, "Okay, don't forget we're low on almond milk." Almond milk. Like that was the thing threatening our marriage. I packed a bag with 2 shirts, an extra pair of socks, a flash drive I didn't need, and a notebook I hadn't written in since 2021. I didn't know what I was expecting to find. I only knew that if I waited one more day, I might explode in my own skin. I got in the car and drove toward the address listed on the back of the receipt from Heather's bag. It was a conference hotel, mid-tier, the kind with business flyers on the windows and motivational posters in the elevator. Nothing romantic. Nothing obvious. The kind of place where people wore name tags and shook hands like they were pretending to be important. But something was off the moment I walked in. There was a room 312, but it wasn't a guest room. It was a conference suite, tucked behind a heavy wooden door with frosted glass. The sign next to it read, Melville Development, Regional Training Weekend. I stood there frozen. My heart started doing that thing it does when it's confused and angry and terrified at the same time, skipping one beat just to hammer 3 more in retaliation. MD Melville. Development. That was it. Those were the initials. But I still had no idea what Heather had to do with it. I waited. I sat in the hotel's sad little cafe, sipping overpriced coffee, pretending to read something on my phone. For 3 hours, I watched people come and go from room 312. Middle-aged men in khakis. Tired-looking women in lanyards. Laptops, folders, backpacks. Training sessions, sure. But none of them looked like they were hiding anything. Until 6:49 p.m. That's when I saw her. Heather. Not walking out. Walking in. She wasn't dressed for a conference. She wore jeans, tight, and that navy blouse with the sheer sleeves she always called too much for work. Her hair was curled. Not like quick touch-up curled. Like purposefully curled. Her makeup was done, lips glossy, eyes sharp. And in her hand, a paper bag from the same bakery where we bought our wedding cake. I nearly knocked my coffee over. I followed. Of course I followed. I told the front desk I was here for the Melville team dinner. They didn't question me, gave me a generic black lanyard, and waved me through. My badge didn't even have a name on it. Just the company logo and the word guest in block letters. Inside, room 312 was dimly lit. A circle of chairs. Foldable table with nameplates. A projector frozen on the words Breakout Group B. Heather wasn't in the circle. She was down the hall, just past the glass divider, in a lounge space clearly meant for team building or whatever corporate buzzword they used now. She was laughing. Not a fake laugh. Not the laugh she gave me when I made bad puns. A real, sparked from her core kind of laugh. Her head tilted back, mouth open, that little hiccup at the end that used to make my whole day. She was standing close to a man. Maybe early 40s. Salt and pepper hair. Confident posture. His badge read, Matt Durrell, Regional Strategy. MD. I swear my ears started ringing so loud I didn't hear the coffee cart crash behind me. They didn't touch. But they didn't have to. She handed him the bakery bag. He opened it and pulled out something small, round, golden brown. A pancake. A damn pancake. Wrapped in wax paper and tied with a blue string. He smiled like a kid on Christmas. She bit her lip, that flirty bite that used to be mine, and said something I couldn't hear. He responded by holding the pancake up like a toast and bowing dramatically. Everyone else in the lounge laughed. Like it was normal. Like this was just a joke among friends. But I knew. I knew in my bones. Because Heather doesn't bake. And she definitely doesn't make pancakes for coworkers. She barely makes them for me anymore. I stumbled out. Didn't speak. Didn't confront. Didn't scream. What was I supposed to say? Hi, honey. I tracked you to a hotel conference center, saw you deliver baked goods to a silver-haired strategist, and now I'm spiraling into madness. No. Instead, I sat in my car for an hour and a half watching ants crawl across the dashboard while I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles cracked. And when I got back home past midnight, Ren was still awake. She was sitting on the back porch, knees tucked to her chest, hoodie pulled over her face. She didn't ask where I'd been. She just handed me a folded paper towel with a single bite of a cold pancake inside. No explanation. No questions. But it smelled like cedarwood. I didn't sleep that night either. But it wasn't the usual kind of insomnia. The one where you stare at the ceiling and wonder why your life is running on autopilot. This was noisier. Heather snored softly beside me. Her mouth was half open, and every few minutes she made a sound like she was choking on her own silence. I watched her breathe, not in a romantic way, not like in movies. I just needed to confirm she still could, that she was still human. Because what kind of person bakes pancakes for another man and comes home to sleep next to her husband like it's just a Tuesday? Around 3:11 a.m., I got out of bed, walked to the kitchen, stood in front of the fridge with the door open for longer than I should have. Inside, behind the almond milk and oat creamer and the bottle of her ginger celery detox hell, I saw something I hadn't bought. A box of strawberries. Organic. Price sticker from a specialty shop in the next town over. I opened it. Not a single strawberry had been touched. Not even rinsed. They weren't for me. Heather knows I'm allergic. Not in the face swells up kind of way, but the tongue gets itchy and I complain for 3 hours kind of way. And she hates when I complain. So why would she buy them? I shut the fridge and turned to find Ren in the hallway, wearing my hoodie again. Her hair was a mess. She was holding her phone, but not looking at it. "You found them?" she asked softly. I didn't even pretend to be confused. "Yeah. I thought about throwing them out," she said. "But I figured. Maybe you needed to see them for yourself." We just stood there for a second. The silence was like a glass we both knew was going to shatter, but neither of us wanted to be the one holding the hammer. Later that morning, Heather left early. Earlier than usual. Claimed there was a networking breakfast for work. She didn't take her laptop. Just her phone and that same navy blouse from the night before. The one she didn't bother washing. She kissed my cheek before leaving. She never does that anymore. I just stood there in the foyer like a corpse propped upright. Ren came down a few minutes later, brushing her teeth with one of my spare toothbrushes. Orange handle. Same weird crack in the side. "You okay?" she mumbled, foam on her lip. "No. You want to do something about it?" "I don't know how." She wiped her mouth with the sleeve of her hoodie, my hoodie, and sighed. "Well," she said, "I do." We didn't go through Heather's phone. We went through her calendar. Apparently, Ren had access. Something about a shared family planning app Heather forced everyone to download 2 years ago when she got obsessed with syncing priorities. Ren never deleted it, just muted the notifications. But it still worked. Still updated in real time. Which is how we found an event labeled simply 12 o'clock M.D. 45 minutes. Scheduled. Repeating. Every Thursday. With a location tagged. Baker and Finch, upstairs patio. Not a restaurant. A bookstore cafe with a rooftop. Quiet. Unassuming. Local. The kind of place you could disappear into while pretending to take a call or meet a client. We didn't even debate it. We just got in the car and drove. It was 12:08 when we got there. Heather was already seated. So was he. Matt Durrell. No suit this time. Casual button-up, sleeves rolled to the elbows like he wanted his forearms to do the talking. A notebook between them. 2 coffees. One of them had our initials drawn in the foam. NS. Her thumb was resting on the rim of his cup. Light. Careless. Intimate. I watched from behind the trellis wall that framed the patio entrance. Ren stood just out of sight, pretending to browse a shelf of overpriced journals. Then I saw it. Heather pulled something from her bag and placed it on the table. A black velvet box. Small. Square. Jewelry-sized. She opened it, slowly. Inside was a thin silver bracelet with a tiny fork charm dangling from the clasp. A fork. A reference to the travel fork she was so frantic about finding 2 days ago. The one she couldn't eat lunch without. Matt laughed. She placed the bracelet on his wrist. And then he leaned forward and kissed her. Not her mouth. Her wrist. Just once. But it was worse than a kiss on the lips. It was reverent. Possessive. Like he thought he owned her bones. I almost threw up in my own mouth. We left without being seen. No dramatic confrontation. No slamming fists or screaming matches. Just silence. Except for the sound of Ren's foot tapping rapidly in the passenger seat the whole drive back. She didn't say anything until we pulled into the driveway. Then, finally, she gave him a symbol of a fork. Nolan. I noticed. She's not even hiding it. She wants to be caught. I sat there staring at the crack in the windshield I never got fixed. It split right down the middle like someone had traced my chest with a box cutter. I didn't know what to say, so Ren said it for me. "You don't need to explode," she said. "You just need to walk away and let her watch you disappear." I started with the mug. It was a gift from Heather years ago. Ugly, wide-rimmed, with the phrase, "You're my favorite" notification printed in Comic Sans. She gave it to me on our 3rd anniversary as a joke, or maybe not a joke, back when she still sent me screenshots of dumb memes at midnight and texted me, "I miss your dumb face," while I was at work. I used that mug every morning. But that day, I took it down from the shelf, placed it in the bottom cabinet behind the rice cooker we never use, and replaced it with a blank black one from Ren's thrift store stash. I didn't say anything. Heather didn't notice. That was the beginning. I stopped responding to her texts. Not in a dramatic way. I didn't block her. I didn't leave her on read. I just slowed the replies, delayed the typing bubbles, cut answers down to single words. Okay. Sure. Cool. She didn't seem to mind. She was always in meetings anyway. Always stepping away, or on low battery, or driving through a dead zone. Except our town has had perfect coverage since 2018. I helped install the dam towers. I started going for walks. Long ones. Late ones. The kind of walks you take when you're not really walking. You're just leaving something behind in pieces every time your foot hits the ground. Sometimes Ren came with me. Sometimes she didn't. When she did, we barely talked. But one night, she said something that's still ringing in my ears. "You're not invisible, Nolan. You're just in the wrong story." I didn't answer, but I haven't stopped thinking about it. On Thursday morning, I left an envelope on Heather's side of the bed. It was plain. No label. Just a single folded sheet inside. It read, "We're out of almond milk. And also, I'm not going to wait for you to look at me anymore." I didn't sign it. Didn't need to. She wouldn't get it anyway. I spent that entire day at the public library. Not reading. Just sitting near the windows, listening to strangers argue softly over printers and overdue fines. I watched the world go on without me. It was peaceful. When I got home, something had shifted. Heather was cooking. Actually cooking. Salmon, rice, asparagus. The whole layout. Candles. Plates arranged like Pinterest photos. She didn't look up when I entered. "Hey," she said casually. "You're home early." I wasn't. It was 6:52 p.m. I always came home at 6:52. She just hadn't bothered to know that for the last year. "I made dinner," she added. "Hope you're hungry." I sat. I ate. I didn't say much. She kept glancing up like she was waiting for applause. Or maybe for me to ask her why the sudden 5-star effort. But I didn't. Because I wasn't sure who this performance was for. Because I didn't want her to think I could still be baited with breadcrumbs. At 10:43 p.m., she fell asleep on the couch. Her phone was face down on the coffee table. She never used to leave it out like that. I stared at it for 15 minutes. Then I picked it up, unlocked it. She still used the same 4-digit code, the month we got engaged, and opened her text history. There were no recent messages with Matt. Nothing. Not even an archive. But in her notes app, under a folder called Drafts, I found it. A message she'd written but never sent. "I don't know how to leave him without losing the house. And I don't want to sleep on a friend's couch. I need more time. Be patient." That was the line that cracked something. Not, "I love you." Not, "I'm scared." Not, "This is hard." Just logistics. A calculation. The next day, I called my cousin Greg, the one who runs a small construction firm an hour away, and asked if he was still looking for help on weekends. He was. I said I'd take it. Heather didn't ask where I was going Saturday morning. I left before sunrise, came home after dark, and smelled like sawdust and gasoline. She didn't comment. Just waved a hand in my general direction and asked if I could pick up Ty next time. I went to bed without responding. Sunday morning, I took the chair from the bedroom, the one I refinished for her reading nook years ago, and dragged it out to the curb. It didn't match anything in the room anymore. It never did. Ren saw me do it from the kitchen window. She didn't say anything. Just made coffee and handed me the mug with the chip in the handle. The one I like because it leaks if you tilt it the wrong way. I sipped it slowly, sitting on the porch where the morning light felt kinder than anything in the house. "I have a job interview next week," Ren said casually. I raised an eyebrow. "Here." "Not exactly." And she didn't elaborate. That afternoon, Heather said she wanted to talk. I nodded. She sat on the edge of the bed and didn't look at me. "I feel like you've been distant," she said. The words didn't even make me angry. I just smiled. Not warmly. Not cruelly. Just softly. Like someone watching a machine say the same programmed sentence one too many times. "Yeah," I said. "I guess I have." She didn't know what to say after that. She wasn't used to me not apologizing for her feelings. That night, I checked the trash bin outside. The fork charm bracelet was inside, broken in two, and I didn't feel satisfaction. I just felt free. The following week, I caught Heather staring at me 3 different times. Not lovingly, not curiously, more like she was watching something she didn't recognize anymore, like a houseplant that suddenly grew teeth. She hovered, offered me tea, asked if I wanted to go for a drive sometime soon, maybe just the two of us. I said maybe. Then I opened a Word doc on my work laptop titled Inventory. It wasn't about the house. It was about me. Inventory of what I've lost. Sunday mornings. Being seen. Jokes that land. A sense of gravity when I walk in a room. Her voice saying my name like it meant something. Inventory of what I still have. Silence. Ren. The ability to leave without begging. That list sat open for 3 days. I added to it during meetings. On breaks. Between emails. I didn't write in it like I was sad. I wrote in it like I was packing a bag. Meanwhile, Ren started disappearing for hours at a time. She wouldn't say where she went, but she always came back with something new. One day it was a little USB drive. Another time, a printed photo. Then a rental contract I never signed. She never showed me any of it directly. She just left them near my things. Not as messages. More like breadcrumbs. Or warnings. On Thursday, Heather didn't come home until 1:47 a.m. I didn't ask where she was. She didn't offer an answer. She undressed quietly, slipped into bed, and stared at the ceiling like I wasn't there. Then she said it. Not loud, not emotional, not even directed at me. Just a whisper. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I didn't move. She added, I think I broke it. Whatever we had. I turned my face into the pillow. My voice cracked when I finally said, You didn't break it. You just stopped touching it. Silence. That was the first time I felt her cry beside me in over a year. Not because of something I did, but because she finally realized she had no idea who she was sharing a bed with anymore. Friday morning, Ren handed me the photo. It was Heather. In Matt's truck. The same truck from the parking lot behind Melville's building. The one with the dented tailgate and faded Keep Idaho Wild sticker. They weren't kissing, but they were eating pancakes. Together. In a truck. Her bare feet on his dashboard. Ren said nothing. She just waited. What do you want me to do with this? I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she slid the USB drive into my palm. What's on it? Your exit, she said. I waited until the house was empty. Then I plugged it into my laptop. Inside were 3 folders. Screenshots, messages, notes, drafts. All from Heather's phone, like someone had cloned her backup. Photos, the truck, the hotel, the cafe, the bracelet, audio, a single file labeled call, 9_13, 4 minutes and 21 seconds. Wave. I click play. Heather's voice. Whispering. I just need him to think we're okay a little longer. He's so passive. He won't leave unless he thinks it's his idea. I don't want to fight. I just want space to land first. I want clean lines. Then Matt's voice. You're sure he doesn't suspect? Heather. If he does, he's not saying anything. He still folds my laundry. She laughed. They both laughed. I sat there, listening to my own loyalty get mocked over Bluetooth. I didn't cry. I just sat very, very still. And when the recording ended, I dragged the folder into a hidden drive. Not to use. Not yet. But to remind myself that I'm not crazy. That night, I took the chair from the porch, the one I'd replaced the bedroom chair with, and carried it back inside. Heather looked up from her phone. Didn't you throw that out? I changed my mind, I said. She raised her eyebrows, like she wanted to say more, but didn't. And in that silence, I saw it. For the first time in 2 years, she was afraid of me. Not physically, not violently, but emotionally. She didn't know what I was planning. She didn't know what I knew. And for a woman who built her entire second life around control, that was terrifying. The next morning, Ren was packing a duffel bag. You leaving? I asked. Interviews tomorrow. You get it. Probably. I nodded. She zipped the bag, then turned to face me. I'm not running away, she said. I just don't want to live inside someone else's wreckage. I looked at her. I get that. Then she walked over, pressed her forehead to mine, and whispered. She's about to realize you're not just quiet. You're done. That's a different kind of dangerous. I didn't leave a note. I didn't slam a door. Didn't take anything dramatic. Didn't post cryptic messages or schedule a meeting or demand closure. I just packed a bag. 1 pair of jeans. 2 shirts. My black mug. The USB drive. And the old chair. Yes, the chair. The one I sanded. The one she never sat in. The one that used to collect dust and scarves and silent rejections. It went in the back seat like a passenger who'd been waiting years to finally leave. Ren was already gone. Her room empty. Her presence folded up like a well-written chapter. She left a single sticky note on the fridge. It said, "Don't make a sound. Just go. That's how she'll hear you." So I did. I left on a Sunday morning. The same day we used to make pancakes. The pan was still in the cabinet. The batter mix was still in the drawer. But I didn't touch any of it. Instead, I left the fridge door slightly open, just enough so it would beep when she came into the kitchen. I wanted the house to complain before I did. I walked out quietly, down the front steps, past the garden where the dead fern still leaned, half trimmed, half forgotten. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I drove north. No destination, just motion, gas stations, podcasts, the low hum of air vents, and healing. By noon, I reached a small lake I hadn't seen in years. The kind of place that doesn't show up on maps unless you zoom in 3 times. I parked near the edge, took the chair out of the car, placed it under a tree, and for the first time since the day I finished building it, I sat in it, and it held me. Not perfectly, not comfortably, but it held, and that was enough. A week later, I got a text from Heather. "No, where are you? No, come back." Just 3 words. "I heard you." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. She wasn't evil, just careless. She didn't cheat out of hatred. She did it out of absence. And I let myself disappear so quietly, for so long, that she forgot I was ever fully there. But I remember now. I remember how I feel when I laugh without watching someone's reaction. How food tastes when I'm not eating in silence. How sleep comes when my heart isn't bracing for noise. I'm in a small town now, working part-time with my cousin, helping build things with my hands. Ren writes me sometimes. Short notes. Inside thrifted books she mails once a month. Always signed with a doodle of a fork. I don't know if we'll see each other again. I don't know if that matters. Because this story was never about getting someone back. It was about getting myself out. And I did. Quietly. Finally. Completely.